Hello and welcome to the big league. We are back after a bit of a hiatus for various different reasons, mainly my going off to my cottage for a week. But we're back. We're excited. We've missed an expansion draft, a whole bunch of trades. Rasmus Ristolainen going for the sun and the moon for some reason. Trades are breaking now as we just before we started recording. Pavel Buchnevich got dealt. But we won't get into that yet. We will get into that in a second. We have to start with our interview portion, but first, I should ask both of our gentlemen and our guest. I should introduce you too. But Aiden, we'll start with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good as always. I got my vaccine today, so I'm fully vaxxed now, 2 for 2. Like I said to the guys a bit earlier, excuse me if I seem a little bit tired. I did take like an hour nap before this because it did hit me hard right away. But I feel okay. My arm's not that sore. No headache so far. Just a little bit sleepy. But I will survive the podcast, and I'm looking forward to talking to the guest that we have on today. Jack Shapiro. Jack Shapiro is the guest today. Sorry if I stole the intro from you, Connor. But
go ahead. I suck.
Ryerson Sport Media student Jack Shapiro. Welcome to the big league. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm excited to break down the Buffalo Sabres Philadelphia Flyers trade. Maybe a bit of an overpay. And yeah, I'm excited to get started.
We will get into that eventually. But first, I should say it feels odd that the guest and myself are freshly trimmed up while Aiden's hair is less than trimmed up.
Yep, getting long now.
Compared to what it was the last time we were recorded. But it feels good to get trimmed up, I have to admit. And it's been a long time coming. But before we really get into the interview portion, obviously we open with our question. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you a question. Actually, I'll do this off air. I won't. I'll do this off because I don't know if this guy wants me to say his name on this podcast. But we will talk, Jack, afterwards because you went to a high school that I think a friend of mine went to. But obviously, every show we open with the same question, which is usually not the exact same, but we adjust it because I can't be bothered to write it down. So that question being, what is your first memory of sports? And then what is your first memory of sport media?
It's a great question. I think like Hockey Night in Canada, and it would have to be, like the classic Leafs Sens playoff series on CBC.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Jeez. I don't know.
I think my first memory might have been when Sundin threw his stick into the crowd, and that game or the game after, I think Albertson decided to he faked it. So that was my first memory.
Wow.
When was that? 2004?
Yeah, 2004. Like the classic blue graphics on CBC.
And I remember those ones.
The Bob Cole on the call.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like Hockey Night in Canada. We've gotten a lot of those answers, like just watching hockey on a Saturday night. So would you say that's also kind of like your first memory of sport media then, like watching a broadcast, or would it be something else like later on in your life?
I remember, I think in 2014, like my dad used to work for CBC, so he sold television spots on Hockey Night in Canada. And one time I went to a Rangers Leafs game, and during the intermission, I got invited to go down into the truck. So that was really interesting. And I think it was probably the thing that ignited my, journey towards sport media at Ryerson.
We potentially have a blockbuster on our hands, by the way, in the next couple minutes.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
I mean, blockbuster.
Is it
Eichel?
Yeah, Eichel.
Coyotes, Vancouver.
Oh, we gotta get Lucas Walker on we gotta call Lucas Walker.
The rumors are, we'll just sidetrack for a second. I can't remember who tweeted this out. I just had it open. But rumors are 9th overall pick is involved going to
Oh wow.
Coyotes for Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland.
Oh my
With
gosh.
more to the deal.
That's really good. I like OEL he's not the same defenseman that he used to be, but when you add in Connor Garland,
Garland is the big acquisition there, in my opinion. And I think Nate Schmidt is part of the deal too. And Vancouver have been trying to move him for a few weeks now. But we'll get into that when that actually happens. David Pagnotta tweeted that they have something brewing, and somebody who is connected. Here he is. John Gambadaro. He's a sports radio talk show host in Arizona. But we'll see what happens with that. Let's continue on your interview. And I guess your dad worked for the CBC. That's sort of your first introduction to sport media and all that sort of thing. But is that something that you've sort of been interested in since you were really young, or is this something that sort of developed as you got older and had more opportunities to go explore the CBC buildings, etc.?
I think most kids, they want to be professional athletes when they're younger, but that's not going to happen sadly for most people. So I wanted to stay in the sports industry, and doing sport media is a great way to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna ask, did you do anything like in high school sort of thing to get your feet a bit wet in the sport media side of things? Or was this sort of something where you discovered sport media, you decided, hey, this could be a viable career path, and chased it? Or where did your path lead you?
It was like I took sports marketing in grade 12, and that it's not media, but it was a start. And also my friend who's now graduated, Colin Darling, him entering sport media, he also told me about how great of a program it is.
He's 1 year old, right? Colin Darling?
We're actually the same age. It's that in 2017, when I graduated from Northern Secondary School,
you're older than us.
Yeah.
I
went to Ryerson.
Okay.
I initially went to Ryerson for international, economics and finance. I did not like it at all.
Okay.
Didn't like it. Took the semester off, and of course, just prepared for the essays that we had to write to get in, and the interview. And then 2018, that's when we all started sport media.
Okay.
I got it now. Okay, now it all makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So you and Colin are kind of like best friends then, or like you guys went to the same school, obviously, and you wanted to get into yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we've been friends since probably we were 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
We went to the same elementary school, and then he went to his dad's high school, I think. But yeah.
Okay, which high school is that?
I'm not sure.
You don't know?
No.
Was it in the area of your high school?
No.
No? Okay. Interesting. So you've had a similar path to Hunter, in that you went to university for a year before jumping into sport media. But why did you apply to sport media when you graduated, or was this something that you decided to do after you'd done a year of the economics?
This was after the half semester. Yeah, the semester of economics, just looking for other programs. And I know there's the College of Sport Media, but Ryerson was definitely the number one choice.
So when you applied the first time, the year after you graduated high school, what other options were you looking at? Was it strictly just Ryerson for that finance program, or were you thinking about going anywhere else?
I was looking at journalism as well at Ryerson, but I ended up taking economics and finance.
Okay, cool. So nothing else at other schools though?
No, not really.
Really? So you were just set on Ryerson? Did you go for a tour and you just loved it, or?
Is also the fact that I was kind of unsure what I wanted to do for a career. So I didn't want to just apply and get into, some program that I'm not that comfortable with or, excited to be in. So I kind of just waited, and Ryerson came up, and it was great. So yeah, it was a good one.
So how
Okay.
was so how was the application process then for sport media? So like you said you were in finance for a semester, right? And then you took the second semester off, and then I guess you were just working
Yeah,
on the application process from then on
it
out.
was like September to December, first semester at economics. Didn't like it, wasn't having a good time. Then January, spent the entire month like just researching sport media, figuring out the requirements, got those submitted, and then I think in March, like mid-March, I had my interview with Donna Morrison,
Same.
and
Oh no, sorry, not same, not
Oh,
same.
I'm same. You're not
Yeah,
same.
you're saying.
it was great interview. And then a few weeks later, got the offer. So yeah.
So I guess we won't ask you what date you interviewed because you just said mid-March, completely different months. But
Interesting. Like I actually met the first person I met at Ryerson was Calvin, and we were sitting right beside each other waiting for the interview. And then I also remember looking to my left in the RCC and seeing Kyle Cushman.
Kyle, what did Kyle say he interviewed? I think he told us, but I can't remember.
I don't remember that stuff. I don't know. That was a while ago. That podcast was like last summer.
Yeah, it's been a long time doing these interviews, and we're barely halfway through the program through our
Yeah.
year. So we got to start ramping up a bit more, try to get people done. But I guess, what has that experience been like then? Switching from from finance to sport media. Is this something that was a very difficult decision for you to choose sport media, or was this something that you found really easy? And do you think you would have been ready in first year to have done sport media, or do you think that's something that having that extra year sort of prepared you to tackle what sport media offers, I guess?
I don't think I was ready in 2017, and I also wouldn't have met all the great people in our program. I wouldn't have had all these relationships. So I'm really glad that I waited. And yeah, just like in terms of the work and like the transition, I found economics to be like a very, for the most part, maybe as you went on through the years, it get more like you'd collaborate with others, but it was a very like antisocial kind of in your own bubble. You're not talking to your, other people and stuff.
Holy crap, this trade is huge.
Oh boy.
OEL, this is from Elliot Friedman. OEL Garland, but Eagle, Erickson, Roussel, and 9th overall pick are involved.
Beagle, Erickson, Roussel, and ninth. Yep.
That's a whole lot of money.
That's a whole lot of fourth players.
That's a lot of money. That tells me it's full cap hit
Jesus
of
Christ.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Sorry to cut you off. That just blew me away. How are they unloading Beagle, Erickson, and Roussel? There's got to be another.
Wait, aren't the Coyotes involved in Eichel?
No, no,
No?
no.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so.
No, I think I saw that. Yeah, I think wasn't the Coyotes one of the
It's
teams?
Anaheim, LA,
Oh,
Minnesota,
Anaheim.
Rangers, and
Oh
Drago
yeah.
reported tonight a mystery team he didn't want to speculate on from the East, which people have sort of deduced might be Carolina
Okay.
and Montreal too.
Damn. Okay. All right. Should we hop back to the interview portion, or should we?
This is all over the place, but yes.
Okay.
Because now I'm seeing Holtby potentially as well.
Wow. Jeez.
None of
Both teams, like team for team trade.
literally, this is insane. This is one of the biggest trades we've seen in a long time. But okay, we'll dive into that. We'll stop looking at this because
I don't know
wow.
what Arizona's really thinking here, but I don't know.
Who knows? There's probably boatloads of stuff coming back from Vancouver, but again, not now. We're all over the place.
All right. So you were saying that program was more kind of like introverts, I guess, more so.
It was, yeah, like it's an individual program. Like you just kind of do your assignments on your own. There's nothing to really like bring the program together like there is at Ryerson. Like you don't have goals that
Use
you're
sport
working on.
media.
Like you,
Ryerson both times before
oh,
people.
sorry.
Like,
Yeah, it's sport media. You like work on an assignment. We have the practicum coming up in fourth year, so nothing of that nature was in economics.
For sure. So a lot more hands-on stuff. And was it kind of intimidating, like going from a program that was so like, I guess also very maybe less known as well, because like sport media, like everybody knows Ryerson sport media and like how hands-on it is, the facilities, Rams Live, all the studio, etc. Was it intimidating from you switching from like a program that was just completely different?
Well, like with my history of, sports, like I wasn't too intimidated, but and also the fact that like I'm not the best at math, that also like, so I feel
So
like
you were in that program, but you weren't the best at that.
not Albert Einstein. I can't be.
All right. Well, you don't have to be that smart, but I'm terrible. I can say that I am terrible at math. So you're way better than me for sure, Jack.
Thank you.
just takes it. Just takes it. Okay. All right. All right. Where do we go from here? So you talk about the interview. I want to know more about that interview with Donna, though. What kind of questions did she ask you during it, and how did you feel coming out of that interview?
I think she asked me, what's a weakness of yours that you want to improve on? And I think that was public speaking was my answer. And I also talked about the time that I went into the truck during the intermission, just to, show like I've been interested in the industry for a while. Because that at the time that had been 4 years. So 4 years of just researching, looking at, what it takes, and preparing to, submit my application.
Okay. So it was kind of like a longer process. It wasn't just like a semester of
No,
planning. Okay. I see.
like it was, yeah, it had always been on the back burner, but I just thought like, let's try out economics and finance. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest choice.
All right, I got you.
let's dive into, I guess, more in terms of at sport media in the program. I guess we can get this question out of the way now before we get sidetracked again by more trade details. But what has been your favorite class so far? Has it been the TV lab, sports graphics, because you're very involved in graphics and do a ton of graphic stuff? Is it something completely out of left field? What do you favorite course? Let's hear it.
I think it is the production classes with Karen, Dan, Ryan, Evan, all the props, because there's so many different things you can do. It's, like if you want to be on air, you can be a host. If you want to write, if you want to do audio, graphics, like there's so many different paths that you can take. And you're not really like with some of the theory classes, you're kind of forced to, go this way or that way. So it's just a very open class, and it plays to the strengths of a lot of people.
Okay, what year?
That's tough. They're all really great. I don't want to.
You're not going to get in trouble for saying one prof over another.
I'm not going to name one prof.
I didn't know what year meant, and at first I was like, what year? Oh, but like what? Okay, now I get it. Sorry, it must be the vaccine. I feel a little bit off today.
Yeah, blame it on the vaccine. That's good. Get the vaccine. That's not a reason not to get it. Mind doesn't go places. Aiden's just tired.
I think so. Yeah.
Like it was incredible how we were able to do our production class remotely. Like that was insane.
Yeah.
The amount of work that went into that, preparing that class during the summer of 2020.
Yeah, Ryan,
unbelievable.
Ryan, all the TAs, unbelievable on that, and I don't think we give them nearly enough credit.
I always tell, like, because I was asked by neighbors and friends, family, like, what kind of classes are you taking? And when I told them that I was taking a TV class, they were surprised, because most people assume that you have to be in the studio, right?
Yeah. It's nuts. Like the amount of stuff that we had to download, and and the whole setup and like Ryan and Evan and all like getting to class early as well, like waking up super early because they actually had to like be in person. It's crazy how we pulled it off. And yeah, like I always say this, like the stuff that we learned, like we're gonna benefit it more than any other year did. And because we learned a lot of different things that they didn't get the chance to learn. So I think it's gonna be something that we keep in our back pocket moving forward. So you mentioned production class. That's your favorite one. What is your ideal role? Sometimes you don't get to choose the role, but if you could choose the role that you want it to be, then what would you basically, if you're not stuck with AD, what's your role?
Yeah, I'm not a great AD, but I think it would be of course, like just graphics would be number one. Like
For sure.
That's not your number one.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's something out of my sleeve, but and then I guess writing would be the second option. I think I want to do more writing heading into the fourth year.
Yeah, we haven't done a ton of it for script if you're not at least producing shows or talents. We haven't done a ton of script writing. So it's interesting you say. Have you taken any classes specifically for that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I know for like the on-air presentation, I think there was more writing like your monologue. I think we had to do like a monologue and then just preparing like interview questions as well. Yeah. I think there was like one is like choose an athlete who should go into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, right? And then talk on that for like 2 minutes.
That was the monologue. That was the monologue. And I was about to ask, who did you guys do?
Jeez, it's such a long time ago.
I don't know. I have to search it. I forget.
Okay.
It might have been Martin St. Louis, but I honestly don't know. I forget. I'd have to search it on my G drive.
You don't have to do that. I just figured you might know off the top of your heads. I did some random no-name Canadian goalkeeper in soccer because I knew nobody would do soccer. But continuing on with school, this will be our last school question before we'll dive into more of the stuff you've done outside of school, because you have done quite a bit. But what would be some of... we didn't do feedback, did we? What would be your three to five? We like to give people the choice. Pieces of advice. Oh, Aiden, you figured it out.
I figured it out. And how ironic. Ron Francis. Francis. That's crazy. We're in the Kraken shirt as well.
You got a Kraken? That's sick.
Yeah. Wow, that's I had to go back to that. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. At that time he was without a job, I guess. And now he's definitely he should definitely be in the Hall of Fame if he's the GM of the Kraken now.
Wouldn't he have been the Canes GM at that time?
Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who cares? We like to leave for this question. We like to leave the options open. But what are your 3 to 5 pieces of advice for somebody looking to get into sport media, the industry / this program?
That's a great question.
It's a really easy question, so you should be able to come up with this immediately.
Definitely do your research before, in terms of like try to figure out why you're trying to get into sport media. Like, what do you want to pursue? I think building connections is very important as well, and then the third one would be just always be active, always be creating, and just upload anything that you create, regardless, like, because you never know who's going to be, viewing that piece of work.
I think that's a very good
we're going to
point.
push you for 5. I'm kidding. Let's dive into some of your other work that you've done outside of school, because there is quite a lot of graphic design stuff. So maybe we'll sort of package some of it together. But
I got to talk about my Shoppers Drug Mart tenure as well. Like,
I was going to include it. I saw it on your LinkedIn. You probably saw me view your LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I was going to, but I decided
no, like I've had a couple of bobblehead nights at the store. You know, I'm getting my jersey retired soon, so I'm
Wait,
excited.
no, you're kidding, right? That's
Yeah.
not a thing. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Aiden,
all
you
right.
really bought that?
I don't know.
God, that vaccine must
I'm
really be.
all over the place today. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it's placebo though. Like I'm just thinking that and I'm acting this way, but something is off.
This show's just been all over the place.
It has.
We
Yeah.
shouldn't have done this like 3-4 hours before the entry draft started.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the hockey when we'll dive into the giant trade and all that stuff. But we'll start off. Let's start off by my difficulty researching you, because as I was saying before we started recording, it was impossible because there are so many Jack Shapiros. It's not even funny. Like
There's I just booked my ticket for the Jack Shapiro like World's Fair convention.
That's
honestly,
That's
I would believe that, but the problem is all the searches are for obituaries.
Oh, that's not.
That's
a bit of foreshadowing, eh?
That's very dark.
Yeah.
But the main thing that came up when I looked up Jack Shapiro was apparently there's a very famous football player who shares your name. Do you know who he is?
Jack Shapiro.
Good, because you shouldn't.
He's Jack Shapiro. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Well, his name is Jack Emmanuel Soupy Shapiro. He was an American gridiron football player who played in one game with the Staten Island Stapletons of the National Football League in 1929. But the reason he's famous is he's the shortest football player to ever play in the NFL at 5'1".
Jeez. What position?
He was a defensive back.
Oh, what? He's a defensive back?
And keep in mind, this was in 1929, and he played a single game.
Okay, single game.
It's kind of like that baseball player who he was pretty short and he had one at bat, I think.
Not Jose Altuve.
No.
No, not
and
him.
I swear, like the number that he had was like 3.5 or something. They had like a fraction as well.
Let's Google this.
The number, like the number on the back of his jersey, you mean? 3.5? Jeez.
It was like a number and then a fraction.
Edward Carl Gadel?
What's that called? Is that called the mixed number? Going back to my math days. A number and then a fraction. That's a mixed number, correct?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
He was 60 pounds. 60 pounds, 3'7".
Insane.
Wow.
His jersey bearing the uniform number 1/8.
What's his name?
Eddie Gadel.
Okay, I'm gonna look.
How many at bats did he have?
Oh,
did he? Because I swear he had like one at bat walked, so he has a 1,000 OBP.
Oh. Wait, I'm gonna watch his at bat right now.
You're watching his at bat.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a 25 pitch at bat. Like he's just fouling them off.
He was a pinch hitter. Pitcher for Frank Saucier.
Yeah,
1/8. If you want to talk about like legendary pitchers, Old Hoss Radbourne is pretty good.
Tell us about him. This is so off base from where we were supposed
to go. I swear one season he had like 45 plus wins. It was unreal.
Wait, what? 45 plus wins? That's nuts.
Yeah, because they didn't have as many pitchers back then. So you just pitch all the games.
Okay.
He went 60-12 with a 1.38 ERA in 1884.
1884.
Yeah. 73 games started, 678 and 2/3 innings pitched. And he had 441 strikeouts.
400
Holy.
strikeouts. Wow. That's not bad. It's better than I could do. So there we go. We got to get back on track. We can talk about random sports facts after we've talked about you. Although I'm totally to blame for that. So
he popped out. He popped out.
Popped out. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Oh, he made contact though. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Although I guess a very small strike zone. So surprised he didn't walk.
That's true. Yeah.
The strike zone is as big as the ball. You have
Pretty
to
much.
get.
Yeah.
Straight up.
We've gone so off course. Sports buzz. We'll start with that because I don't know how much there is to get into it. It's sort of dead at this point. You haven't posted on it in over a calendar year. At the July 13th, 2020 was the last time there was a post. But maybe talk a bit about how that sort of started, because we have gotten into it with Therese and Kayla before. So maybe get your point of view as the intern, as you were called.
Yeah, I'm still the intern after a year and a half, but like hanging out a lot with because we had this very similar schedule in the winter of 2020. So Lucas Wacker, Sam Cleary, Teresa Villa, and Kayla Erasmus, we all like hung out. We got to go to the ROM, just all different activities. And Teresa and Kayla, mostly, they were like creating a lot of graphics. And I, took note of that. And then they helped me, learn the basics and kind of push me towards that, like that part of the industry. So credit to them.
So what's it going to take for you to step out of the intern slot and become a main staple on the sport bus?
I don't know. I got to talk to my agent. We got to.
Okay. It's the money. It's the money situation.
It's always about money. Like at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. So we just got to figure out a deal, or else I'm gonna pull a William Nylander.
Dang.
All right, Kayla, Therese, you heard the man.
I love this podcast. This is a good podcast. I really like this podcast.
This has been so much fun. Has been so much fun. As more details come out about the Ekman Larson trade, but we'll get into it. Continue on the graphic designer path, because that's pretty much everything I have on you. In terms of sport media, I had no idea about your dad. There are too many Jack Sparrows for me to figure that out. Why don't we dive into your personal account, because it's sort of connected. Snaps by Shaps. You put up graphics on there every once in a while. Most recent one was a jersey swap of Jakub Voracek into his Seattle Kraken jersey.
Hopefully it happens soon. Maybe tonight.
I don't know about that one, Chief. You don't have very many draft picks to send back to them.
They could have gotten him for free though, and I don't know if he's gonna get there and go there now.
I think like Ron Francis probably wanted some picks for that, to take him, and the Flyers didn't oblige.
That's true.
Again, we'll get into sports in a second. We have so much to talk about sports-wise. Snaps by Shaps, though. What sort of prompted you to create the account, and what is sort of your goal with the account going forward?
I think the pandemic definitely made me create the account. Just having a lot of free time, and trying to figure out like how to still create content and have kind of a hobby while we were in lockdown. And then also hanging out with, all these graphic designers now who have gone on to work for like Bar Down and in other companies. So it was just a combination of like the situation we were in and then the influence of others.
What I'm just interested in like what's your schedule, I guess, with this account? Like, is it just like you make a graphic if there's like a big moment, or do you like plan like a week in advance? Like you look at the upcoming sports schedule, like, okay, the draft is tonight. Do I post something like that?
It's a bit like both me being spontaneous and just deciding to like I have an idea and then I wanted to create the graphic. Like for instance, Like I really enjoy watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then having Shea Weber. Everyone's making graphics for his 1,000th game, but I'm gonna make it 1,001, like in reference to the famous tunnel scene. And then, and like you said, like big moments. So, if someone wins a Grand Slam in tennis, or the home run derby, just anything sports related that's very topical, I'll look to create graphics for that as well.
Yeah.
All right. And
I love the username, by the way, too. I think it's really clever.
Thank you.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's
link in the description.
Yeah, link in the description. There's a Twitter account. I can't remember whose it is. Pete. It's like Pete's Twitter account for Pete's Take. That's a really good one.
Oh, that's really good.
That was a really good one.
That's a good one.
Although he never uses it, which sucks.
But that was for the class. He made that for the journalism class. That was his burner account.
Yeah, but he's done tweets recently or since. But who knows what his plan with that is. If you want to go check out the Pete interview, go back and check the Pete interview. It's on our YouTube. So what is your plan going forward with the account then? Is it just to continue posting? If you get a job eventually and follow suit with Kayla and Lucas and Therese and Kennedy and every other person working for an industry as a graphic design person, will you continue putting those sort of graphics on there, or is that sort of something that'll sort of die once you get employed?
It'll probably be a lot less frequent, I think. Like just because that's just kind of a hobby for fun. Like there's nothing really on the line if I don't post and if I don't create. So with that in mind, like I wouldn't post that much.
For sure. Like at some point you have to graduate from the account and move on to the next big thing. But don't get us wrong, Jack. Like if you leave that account, we'll be heartbroken.
No. It's not.
You can't let your fans down.
It'll always be there. It'll always be active.
Okay, cool.
What you do is you take all the graphics that you make for the company and you put them on there to keep it active. And it doesn't even take double the amount of work if you're legally allowed to do that, which you should definitely check with.
Yes.
Check that, because some companies won't allow you to do that. But Snaps by Shaps, not the only Instagram you do, I guess, graphics for. You also do them for OTL Sports. You're one of their crew of, at one point, basically half the program that worked for them. What is your role at this point? Do you still do graphics regularly? And how did you sort of get involved with OTL Sports?
So how I got involved was at the beginning of the bubble, like NHL bubble, Curtis Martin contacted me and he asked me if I wanted to create a preview graphic for the Penguins Habs series. So I created that, and then Lucas joined later that month, I think, and then it just kept accumulating with people from sport media. And then moving forward, like Lucas and I did like a post-game graphic for every single Stanley Cup playoff game. But I think moving forward, we might post a bit about the Tokyo Olympics, but like the Snaps by Shaps, it's probably not going to be that frequent.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so I guess we can list some of the people who also do the stuff. Like Ella Benaldi is like the social media coordinator, according to the website.
I think she might have left. I'm not too sure. I think so, though.
Going off the website, I think Keaton Wolichka still does stuff for them in some capacity. Maybe Therese did. I think Kayla did. Lucas, you mentioned. Zacharias Mavrakis did. Kennedy did. Like we're at almost a sixth of the program at this point. But Aiden, I'll stop cutting you off.
I forget what I was gonna say now. No, it wasn't really a bad cutoff. I actually forget what I was gonna say. I don't know. Come back to me. I'm not sure. I actually don't know. I forget what I was gonna say. I don't think. Did you cut me off? You might have.
I did. You were about to say something, but
yeah,
whatever. One of the things that you did recently, though, that's again sort of on your own, but with a bunch of guys from our program was the Puck Advisors, who did it with Kyle, Eric, Lucas again,
Nigel
Nigel,
and Liam Crothers.
Liam Crothers. That's the one I was forgetting. And Nigel, those two. Should have written that down, but yeah, whatever. That was like a 50-page fantasy hockey magazine you put together with them. So what was it like putting that together? I know it was very rushed at the end based on the Discord and our group chat that we're in together. But how did you find that experience working with them on such a huge project? How stressful was it at the end because you released it like 2 days before the NHL season started? What was that experience like for you?
It was great. It started with, it was Eric Cruikshank's idea, and it's like funny, we play NHL 21 together. So we were just talking about it over like at the start of Christmas break, and then Eric contacted, like we just decided we'd pick the roles, Lucas and myself on graphics, the other as editor slash like writer, and just the chemistry of the Ryerson Rams and Chell team translated into the writing room.
Are you guys all part of a team? Like, you guys don't play for like the actual Ryerson team, though?
No.
Well, the guys do.
Yeah, Drew and Zach, they do, I believe.
Yeah, and Eric maybe at this point.
I think so.
Okay.
A few of them.
Yeah.
How long did that whole process end up taking you guys?
We started early January, and I think it would have been around 7 to 10 days, and then every day we were working on it for like 6 hours per day, 6 to 8 hours. Like I remember when we were getting close to the deadline, I was staying up until like 4 or 5 a.m. Just, we were finalizing all the stats, making sure that each page was like the exact same, and then we also had to figure out how we were going to put it online. So Eric found this website that was like, it was insane because it actually looked like you were flipping through a magazine, and it had like the sound effects and everything. So that was great.
So your guys' deadline was like opening night for the NHL?
Yeah, we had to submit it before opening night.
Okay, I see.
And I think we submitted it, like we put it online on the 12th, and then the season started the next day. I think so. Or it might have been the same day.
I remember it being late in the week, like Thursday, Friday sort of thing. Because the Instagram, our group chat for the hockey, just went mental. Like you guys were just constantly, you had issues exporting it, and then you noticed tiny mistakes.
The way it was set up was you had like this big border at the top with the team, and sometimes they would just be removed, like it would be absent. So we'd have to, like again, the exporting issues were the main problem in that magazine. But we figured it out, so that's good.
Was it just like the dimensions, I guess, or something you had to change?
I don't think it was the dimensions. It was like the way Photoshop exported the PDFs, and then when we put it onto this program, it would just remove certain elements for no reason.
It's like translating like a pages to a Word or something like that, a Word file.
Yeah,
kind of just like messes up the formatting,
I guess.
Yeah.
How many pages did it end up coming out to?
I think front and back cover like plus 48 pages.
Wow. So if you want to check that out, that's online, although it's not incredibly useful anymore at this point, considering we're finished the NHL season.
Can you use it for next year? Are you guys planning on doing one for next year? I guess you got to start working on that somewhat soon.
We have the template, so if we do, it'd be a lot easier and faster. We just have to update the stats. And then I guess, like, because last year we did it per division. So now it's going to be, the divisions are going to go back to normal, hopefully. Right. So,
yeah.
And then we also got to add Seattle. So that's true. Yeah.
So did you guys have like busts and like sleeper picks?
Yeah, we had, so we did our divisional rankings, and then we went into sleepers, like buyer beware, and then the top, I think, 50 players in the NHL.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, you guys should definitely try and do it for next year. What kind of feedback did you guys receive by doing it?
Like just a lot of people congratulating on, because sorry, I'm just off topic here. The feedback was well received. Like people were thanking. Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question.
Like you got compliments, like people
Yeah,
read it and
it was
and
just
liked it.
like the feedback is just complimenting on the amount of work that we put into the magazine, and just being able to create that in just a very short window.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, a last minute thing, but it worked out really, really well, and a lot of pages, a lot of work went into it. So yeah, shout out to you guys for doing that.
Yeah, keep an
Yeah.
eye out for the next edition.
Oh yeah, part two,
Or comes to
2021.
fruition.
Second edition.
Yeah. Final thing we have to talk about, because the trade has now become more official. This is recent. I think you've now stopped it based on your LinkedIn, but you were a graphic designer at the Six Hockey, which isn't
Yeah.
the Toronto Six, it's the Six Hockey. So you can tell us a bit about the Six Hockey and what you sort of did for them.
So that's like an organization founded by a person named Melvi Villa, and it's a lot of people at Ryerson in our program were part of that as well. So Drew Frank, Liam Crothers, Thomas West, Julian Donato, myself, and a few others. We
Dana,
were previewing the OHL priority selection draft, and Liam and Thomas would do videos talking about prospects like in the GTHL and I think OMHA. And then I was in charge of creating the template for draft night for I think Friday and Saturday. And then there was also a bit of writing involved as well. And Julian was the social media coordinator as well.
Okay. I think Dana Ryan was involved too.
Yeah, and Lucas also had a few. I think he worked for maybe a month doing video editing.
Okay, yeah, I vaguely remember that too. So I guess that's sort of come to an end now.
Yeah, I'm not like with the OHL draft, finished. I'm not with them anymore.
Yeah.
Good experience nonetheless. Good experience nonetheless. But I think that's probably it. I don't think we're forgetting anything. Am I forgetting any questions that we normally ask?
We already asked our advice question earlier, so I think that kind of wraps it up. Yeah.
All right. Let's dive into this trade. From Elliot Friedman. The details. Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland for Jay Beagle, Louis Eriksson, Antoine Roussel, a first tonight, which is the 9th overall pick, a second next year, and a 7th. Arizona is retaining 12% of Ekman-Larsson's salary, which I think is around 1.25 or 1.5 million. So his like $8.5 million cap hit comes down to around a 7.
12%. How often do you see that? That's weird.
Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm pretty sure it was 12%. I think it's like the same money. So that was just it's basically official at this point.
Yeah.
The way Kyle Cushman has put it, because we love Kyle. If you haven't checked out our Leafs postmortem, go and check that out. But he sort of put it as an inflated Dion Phaneuf trade.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely inflated, I would say.
You look at it, I guess the way you could look at it is the first is the equivalent of what it would cost to get Garland. And then the whole salary dumps of Eriksson, Beagle, and Roussel are what the Leafs got for Phaneuf.
True.
Does that sort of click a little bit?
I guess so, but in my opinion, OEL is a lot more of a star player than Phaneuf, right? Like he's
Yeah.
not terrible. Like he's pretty good, I would say. Still, like
He has regressed quite a bit, but he's still, I think, in a new city on a with a new coach and a new system. Maybe he can get back to being like a top 10, top 5 offensive defenseman in the NHL.
yeah, I think like at the time of the Phaneuf trade, like Phaneuf was what maybe like a 5 or 6 D man, but OEL is still a top 4 defenseman, I would say.
Yeah.
Like he still has a lot of game left.
This isn't a trade. It's from Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun. Hyman's agent, Todd Reynolds. Zach will be signing elsewhere. He won't be returning to Toronto. Is the quote, agreement in place with Oilers, Holland and Dubas working on compensation. So Leafs will probably get picks back or a prospect or whatever. Let's dive into this OEL trade because I think we should break it down a little bit because that's a really, really big deal. It's a lot of money going in both directions. Obviously, the Canucks finally get out of the Eriksson deal, which they've been trying to do for years at this point because it was a terrible contract the second they signed it, which, again, that's just the Oilers. The fact that Zach Hyman isn't signing there for $8 million is frankly shocking because that's the exact contract they like to sign. But also in the deal, Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle. Roussel, third, fourth liner, not really worth his money. Veteran. Jay Beagle, similar, third, fourth line center, not really worth his money. But going the other way is Connor Garland, who I'm a big fan of simply because he's named Connor. But really good player. He's a good player who's an RFA. And it didn't sound like the Coyotes really wanted to sign him to any sort of extension, which leads us to this deal. He was linked to the Leafs. He was linked to the Bruins at one point too. And apparently Bruins have had pretty advanced conversations potentially about Christian Dvorak today. So we'll see where that goes. I wonder if maybe Nick Ritchie or Jake DeBrusk go the other way because they pretty much need to move one of those two. But really, really big trade. What do you think this spells the end for in terms of the rest of the Canucks back end? Because now they have Tyler Myers and Oliver Ekman-Larsson on their right side. Left side, they're going to have Quinn Hughes. They have to. And right now, Nate Schmidt, but they want to move him.
Right.
I think it takes a little pressure off Quinn Hughes because he's not like the number one guy, driving all the offense from the back end. When you bring in a guy with experience like OEL has, and, we're not that far removed from him having 50-plus point seasons as a defenseman.
Thing is, I don't think they're going to play together.
But just having that, that depth on the team.
Oh, you're saying like having that second option, which
Yeah.
I think you have to be worried about.
Yeah.
Like he'll take more offensive zone face-offs, I guess. Like Ekman-Larsson will get more of those reps in the offensive zone, so it takes a little bit of pressure off of Hughes. Like he can just focus on power play more so, and being like that top pairing guy. He doesn't have to play more minutes than he has to,
And plus, you had Vancouver. Like they're probably losing Alexander Edler. He wants to test the market, so this is definitely a great replacement, I think, for that veteran.
Would be,
yeah, I think so.
I'm not huge on this deal from the Canucks perspective. I love the fact that they're getting Garland back because I like Garland. The OEL contract is worrisome, but again, I guess a little bit of money retained could be a good thing, but I don't see this going well 3 years from now. I think OEL will be a shell of himself. He already kind of is.
Yeah.
And on a few more years, I don't know how well he's going to age, how well he's going to suit Vancouver. And it sort of feels like to get out of cap this season, the Canucks are taking on cap at a later time, which will just
That's
hurt
true.
them probably even more.
Yeah.
Because
But at
who
the
wants
end of the
to
day,
retire?
would you rather have Louis Erickson or OEL?
Would I rather have Louis Erickson for 1 year or OEL for 6? I'd
Yeah.
rather
True.
Louis Erickson for 1.
Because OEL is 30 now. And I know, Connor Garland, he just turned 25 earlier this year. And he got 39 points in 49 games. That's very good. So, that's a great piece. But like you said, 6 years of OEL at 30 years old, that's a bit scary.
It is scary. Like the Canucks at this point are just banking on him to turn it around and become like kind of what he was earlier on in his career. And I wouldn't like lose hope on him completely. Like Arizona hasn't been very good as well,
Yeah.
and he's been there in his entire career. So maybe if you bring him to Vancouver with that offense and Quinn Hughes as well on the back end, maybe because OEL was clearly the number one defenseman on Arizona for his entire career, the captain there.
Jacob
His teammates are definitely a lot more talented, I think. You have Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat,
For sure. Yeah.
Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes. I think the points will go up, but he has to work on his defensive game.
Listen to this.
I agree with that.
Obviously, the first round pick going to Arizona. So they now have a first round pick after losing theirs for cheating. They have 3 second rounders now. 3 second rounders. Next season, though, their own first rounder. With this Canucks trade, they'll have 5 second round picks.
Or the NHL's version of the Oklahoma City Thunder, just accumulating draft picks.
And taking on all of the crap money. Too.
They're so well known for doing that. Like, remember when Datsuk's contract was traded to Arizona?
Yeah.
Datsuk, Hossa, Pronger, Zetterberg, I think maybe.
I have the tweet. Datsuk, Andrew Ladd.
Andrew Ladd.
It was like last week.
Shane
Dave Boland. Gossesberg, exactly. Datsuk, Hossa, Jay Beagle, you can throw in that category too, because I think he's making what, like $3 million or $4 million?
Yeah, but he's actually going to play. The other guys didn't play.
True, but he is borderline a scratch though. Like I don't know if he's like I
don't think
guy
that's
guaranteed, right?
Louis Erickson, yes. Jay Beagle, no. I think Jay Beagle is still serviceable. But again, huge trade going for both sides, and it sort of shoots Seattle in the foot because their plan was to, or what everybody sort of assumed their plan was, is to weaponize their cap space. And instead, they're having Arizona weaponize their cap space and therefore not getting any of the assets. Period. Which I think leads us into the expansion draft because we need to talk about that. We need to get into sort of the nitty-gritty kind of. I want to know before we sort of get into that nitty-gritty though, what did you guys think of it? Would you call, before we do, I just want a one-word answer before we go a bit deeper into this. Would you call it a success or would you call it a failure?
Neither. I don't know if it's a success or a failure yet.
I think the one word to describe it would be it was very familiar because we knew, who the picks were going to be from the analysts on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, analysts used very loosely. Frank Sirali took everything, and Daniel got one, and somebody at Spectre, I think it was Spectre. Yeah, I think he got one. He might have gotten the Detroit one, maybe. Who knows? Again, who cares? That was an interesting pick, though. Picking Dennis Cholowski instead of Troy Stetcher. It wasn't the only interesting pick. There was the Columbus pick, Philadelphia. You very lucked out, kind of, if you weren't trying. I think you were trying to lose money, but it didn't really work. I guess you could kind of say that for Montreal because Price didn't get taken. Wrong expensive goalie. So of every team in the NHL, who came out the biggest winner?
The Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, that's
They
facts.
didn't lose anyone.
Yeah.
And well, they gained Nolan Patrick, which brings us into the trade, but we'll get there in a second because I liked how you teed me up there. But what do you think not Golden Knights? God, you have me thinking Golden Knights now. What do you think the Kraken's plan is going into free agency, going into the draft? Do you think we see a lot of trades involving them tonight for picks? Or do you think that's something that happens tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, leading into free agency? What do you expect them to do? How involved do you think they're going to be? Because they do still have to reach the floor.
Yeah, I think it could happen tonight, honestly, like just the way that this day has been going so far. I think we're gonna get a lot of news that breaks tonight. I think they might have some deals in place already. Like if we have this guy that's on the board with this pick, we'll do the trade. I think there's a lot of stuff that's already like pre-prepared and ready to go. And I think it's not just Seattle. I think every team's kind of going into the draft like that. Like they've already done their I can't even say that word.
Due diligence.
Due diligence. Oh, I don't know. Diligence.
There you go.
Diligence. Due diligence.
Still with a D. A D.
Due diligence.
Diligent.
I don't think you can pronounce it either.
Due diligence.
Due diligence. There you go.
There you go.
Due diligence.
We're just thriving right now. Just
exactly.
thriving.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that have done that, and they're going to be prepared for whatever comes on the draft floor. So I think it's going to be chaos tonight. I think. Let's hope, because all the drafts have been kind of boring like the past few years.
Well, like just this trade with Arizona and Vancouver, it set a precedent that like if you want to get rid of if you want to make some cap space with your team, you're going to have to pay up. And Seattle, Ron Francis, Dave Haxtell, they're going to be like, if they're offered pretty, expensive contracts, they're going to want a lot of pieces in return.
Possibly, yeah. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with their 14,000 defensemen, who are all for some reason over 6'5". So hockey men should be drooling over them. Do you think they move a lot of guys tonight, or do you think it's, as I said, something that happens in the next few days? Or does it happen tomorrow instead for second, third, fourth rounders? And do you expect them to be involved in any of the blockbusters, whether or not that be Seth Jones, Jack Eichel? Who else is potentially moving? I'm sure Buffalo would love to move Jeff Skinner, but that's not happening. Sam Reinhart, potentially. Brock Besser, we've heard his name. Nate Schmidt as well. Do you see Seattle tires on any of them?
They could be a factor, maybe more as like a middleman, taking contracts in order to receive picks and stuff like that. But I don't know if they're really like trying to, take big name contracts unless they're compensated.
Yeah. I don't think they're like ready to do that yet. Like, cause it like, what's their plan exactly? Like, are they trying to win right now, or are they just trying to like, maybe not tank, but like they know that they're not going to be making the playoffs and they want to see if they can get high draft picks. I don't think they're going to be doing like a Mark Stone trade anytime soon, or trying to acquire like Pacioretty like Vegas did. Maybe they're working towards that, but I think they're going to see how this draft goes. They have the second overall pick, which is a great start. Build that core, see what it becomes, and then go from there. But like we said, like they have to reach the floor for the cap space, or for the cap hit. So maybe they do take on some crappy contracts and can get some draft picks as well in those trades. But yeah, I agree with Jack. They're more of just like that middleman. They're not going to be going. I don't see them going after like Eichel. Like
right.
Who do you trade as well in return? Like, because they don't have
assets, right?
Exactly. They have no one. Like, So they have their like core 6, like the guys that they introduced like on stage. They're untouchables right now because you've already introduced them to the fans that you can't trade them.
Fans are already purchasing their jerseys. You don't want to do refunds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true as well. But like also like all the depth guys that they have, like what value do they really have as well? Like what could you get for like I need to look at the roster, but
I think
they didn't
a
have a
guy
great
like
draft.
Giordano, though, if you're a team, let's say Colorado Avalanche, who are looking to add a defenseman at the deadline next season, a guy like Giordano heading into a playoff run, that would be very enticing.
Giordano's going to get the sun and the moon at the next trade deadline because somebody's going to overpay for him. I don't think Eichel's technically out of the question. We know Buffalo highly values this draft for some reason. We don't quite understand that one, but sure. So they have the second overall pick. They have Yanni Gourde potentially. Jared McCann could be enticing. Vince Dunn too. It's a lot of NHL ready.
Great addition. I think their defense is their strongest part of the team. Like they just signed Jamie Alexiak, Giordano. Of course, they signed Adam Larson. They have the first brother duo in an expansion draft in Hayden and Cale Fleury. So, they're, like you said, they want size. Like every defenseman is over 6'5", which is insane. Feels like the 90s again.
I heard, I had a Staff and Craft podcast. They did one today. And one of the things Rachel Dory theorized, she's very tapped into the hockey community considering she works in it, is that they picked guys who the traditional hockey men, the 200 hockey men, really like. Which is why they picked guys like Curtis McDermott and Cholowski.
And Carson Twarynski on the Flyers as well. Instead of taking like JVR, Voracek, Gostisbehere.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that, but in that sort of vein, they tried to pick all the big guys. And one thing she said on the podcast is she heard that a team offered the LA Kings a second-round pick for McDermott last year.
Wow.
That's a lot for a guy who's not very good and only tall and punches people.
So they think that they could get that back, essentially, if they trade him.
That's what she theorized, that they've picked these big hockey guys and are going to try to offload them to the, Philadelphia Flyers, who for some reason wanted Rasmus Ristolainen, so clearly they don't use analytics. Edmonton Oilers and Ken Holland. Jim Benning, although he might use analytics, probably not. Like those kind of guys to try to get really good assets. And I thought that was a really interesting theory because I think it would make a lot of sense. No?
It could, but like that's just like doing more work. Like why don't you just pick guys that you want and not trade? Because like there's no guarantee that second round pick becomes a player that is going to be a part of your team, right? You know what these NHL players are already, and you could have got someone more established, right?
But what you can do with that second round pick is do what St. Louis did today, which is trade a guy who likes to hit people in, say, a Brandon Tanev at money retained and a second round pick for a first line winger in Pavel Buchnevich.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or you could just trade McDermott in that deal and not a second, right? Like,
and Brandon Tanev. Who knows?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, there's options, right? There's options, but like in my opinion, I think you would just take guys that can be a part of your team and you don't want to always trade. Like it's okay to have guys or to select guys just for trading them because you think you can get more back. But I feel like it's just a lot less work if you just pick guys that you actually want, right? I feel like they could have built a much better team in terms of like winning now,
Definitely.
Yeah, but I think they've picked players. Sorry to cut you off, Jack, but I think they've picked players like Mason Appleton and Yanni Gourde, as I mentioned, Jared McCann, who will have a huge impact for them. Vince Dunn potentially, if they flip him.
That's the thing. Like, we look at the Vegas Golden Knights and a guy like William Karlsson, who had a combined 11 goals in like over 100 games, and then he goes to the Golden Knights in a new climate, new structure, everything, and he's not behind guys like Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, Joe Pavelski on San Jose. Instead, he's the one that
You're
is.
thinking of Melker Carlson.
Yeah,
No,
you're thinking
William Karlsson.
William
William-
Karlsson on Columbus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, my point is they're not behind guys. Like, they're the ones that have to score, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
instead of being behind, Columbus's top player,
Nick Foligno.
yeah, instead of being behind Nick Foligno, right?
Yeah.
They're the player that's put on the first power play unit.
Exactly.
They're
Yes.
first line minutes. They're the ones that the team counts on to score, and just that pressure. Some may crumble, but like a lot of others, they've been like waiting for that opportunity.
Who do you think that guy is on Seattle? Is it Jared McCann?
It's Morgan Geekie. That's the name
Interesting.
I keep hearing in the analytics community on Twitter. Is the guy who could be the next William Karlsson is Morgan Geekie.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I could see that.
Vince Dunn in Seattle will be really good.
Yeah. Because
Hayden Fleury potentially as well.
Yeah. Yanni Gourde, he's out probably like all year
So
though next year.
November, it's a month.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
He has a
Oh,
shoulder
okay.
injury.
That's not too bad then.
shoulder surgery.
Okay.
It's not that major. Which neither was Carey Price, but
Yeah.
Do you guys know how old Yanni Gourde is, by the way?
27.
Pretty close.
27.
29. He's 29.
29?
Yeah. I thought he was a lot younger. I thought he was like 26, 27. Like I haven't heard he hasn't really been a big player in this league up until 3 years ago, I'd say.
Yeah, and although he was playing on like a back-to-back Stanley Cup winning team, he was behind Stamkos, Kucherov, Palat, all these offensive guys. So,
yeah.
like, he in the 2017-18 season, he had 64 points. Let's see what he can put up with, a first line unit, 20 minutes a night, and just not having to kind of like hold back.
Exactly, yeah. Would you guys say that Gourde is a first line center, like on any other team other than actually not any other team, but is he that caliber? Like, can he be the number one guy?
I don't know if he'd be a number one guy, but I think at the very least he could be a 1B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a Sean Monahan.
I think he's like an above average second line center.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'd be a good 1B. I don't think he's a full out and out 1A, but
yeah.
you don't necessarily need that.
No.
In the
like
NHL.
look at Vegas. Like Chandler Stevenson is their number one center.
Yeah.
He is.
Kind of. Montreal is another example. Nick Suzuki currently, I'm sure he will be, but currently is not a number one center.
Right. I think he has insane potential, but
exactly
like when he matches up against Tampa Bay, you're gonna
the Leafs,
like
even
really good teams.
The Leafs.
Like Nick Suzuki, many have said he's the next Patrice Bergeron, like a really good two-way center.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
He's rumored to be one of the people and potentially Buffalo want if Montreal go after Eichel, which is, I think, a non-starter immediately for Montreal.
Yeah, but Buffalo definitely has to ask for Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, one of their main guys, because you're giving away Jack Eichel. I know he has some neck issues right now, but he is, when he's on his game, a top definitely a top 10 player in the league.
Yeah, and I think sort of to wrap up the expansion talk, because we didn't fully finish. I didn't actually ask you the last couple questions I wanted to. First one being, do you think it was a failure that they didn't agree to any side deals?
Yes. Maybe don't bring on, well, with Vancouver, contracts that are 6 years where you're going to regret it. But I think teams that want to win now, who are trying to get rid of, like you said, that Louis Eriksson 1-year deal to add a guy like, bring in a guy like Landeskog. Well, those teams, Seattle could have taken on those contracts while also receiving draft picks for the, future entry drafts down the road, and they didn't. And with the Golden Knights expansion draft so recent, and then you compare the two teams and the type of draft picks and prospects that were, received and accumulated by, I think, George McPhee, then it's definitely, I think, maybe an unsuccessful draft in that aspect.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. But maybe just the market was just a lot different this time around, and teams weren't going to let what Vegas did kind of happen again. Because like if you're looking at the trade that just happened, like they could have taken on the Eriksson contract, I guess, and maybe gotten like a first back. But then if you're looking at that from Vancouver's side, they ended up getting Connor Garland in a much bigger trade. So maybe they knew, like, in the back of our heads, like, we could just package him in another deal and get a guy that we actually want, because Seattle doesn't have anyone, So
I think the team that's like that most wanted to like not be giving away a ton of players is the Florida Panthers with Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith in 2017. Like, imagine if
borderline the least
players on their team.
Yeah, they gave a borderline the least too, and a UFA they weren't going to re-sign. Apart from maybe Columbus, because I've never heard of that person before. And they skipped on Max Domi, although sure, I understand that, and Kevin Stenlund don't understand that. But
they skipped on Capo Kakinen.
That's another
great goalie.
Like Carson Soucy's
to choose from.
Sorry?
Like, they had a ton of goalies to choose from.
Yeah.
They had, of course, Carey Price. And what are your thoughts? Do you think that injury is...
It's not. Like Bergevin said, like, he'll be fine.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
We'll see. Final question on the expansion draft before we talk Flyers, because we have to get into those trades. But where do you expect them to finish? Do you think they're going to be a top team in the Pacific, because the Pacific is just abhorrently terrible? Do you think they're going to be also abhorrently terrible, pushing for bottom of the league? Where do you see them finishing next season? I think a way too early prediction, because we don't even know what they're doing with all of their cap space and free agency.
Yeah, like if they add a lot of pieces with the, I think, $30 million in cap space that they have, they could potentially, given that the Pacific Division isn't the best, they could finish maybe try to get that last playoff spot, or fifth, I think.
Fifth, yeah. Yeah, well, I think no matter what, Vegas will probably run away with that. I think Vancouver will be better next year as well. Maybe like fourth, like they get a wild card spot. That'd be sick if they played Vegas in the first round. Like they get that second wild card spot. Vegas finishes first in the West, and they match up. That's my hot take. We get a Vegas Seattle Kraken first round next year.
Save it. We'll get there. But let's talk some Flyers. Because they've made a few moves, namely for two right-handed defensemen, which they desperately needed. First one happened last weekend as we're recording this. I don't know when we're going to have this up, Aiden, but
soon.
Soon? Whenever it is.
Depends how tired I am after this.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be soon.
it happened just before the roster freeze. It actually technically was announced after the roster freeze. And it was the primary parts of the deal were Philippe Myers and Nolan Patrick for Ryan Ellis. Ellis will be a first pairing defenseman. I think it's a great trade, personally, for the Flyers, getting that right shot that they desperately needed for a guy who's really struggled with injuries in Nolan Patrick and Philippe Myers, who's probably going to be like a 4 defenseman, not really more than that. Maybe a 3 if he really develops well. But I think it's a great trade. Jack, I take it you were happy.
Well, it kind of reminds me, like last year, Matt Niskanen retired because of COVID, and it really affected it affected Provorov. And I think by adding that veteran defenseman, Provorov's game is going to improve as well. And then you also get Ellis's strengths. So I think it's a great trade.
Yeah, it's going to be a ripple effect. Like it'll have an impact on all the young guys. Like Sanheim, I think will have a much better season as well, and he's like still very young. And we'll touch on the next trade, but I think their decor, like their top 4, just got a lot better. So I mean, I still don't think, and I'll keep saying this, I don't think the Flyers can win with this core, especially on forward. I just don't think they have that star power anymore. Up front, you need that like one guy up front, but I would say their defense is looking a lot better than it was a couple of weeks ago. Carter Hart needs to turn it around if they want to have any success. But yeah, I think that Ellis trade is really good for them. They didn't have to give up that much, in my opinion. Too bad that Nolan Patrick just didn't work out for them, but maybe he has some more success on Vegas. If he gets ice time there, might be tough. But yeah, I like it. I really like Ryan Ellis as well. I think he kind of got a little bit of diminished minutes from Yossi's play last year, and I think he can step in and be like their number 1 defenseman. Really, he'll be the Flyers' number 1 defenseman.
I forgot to ask you this in our St. Louis discussion, but one of the ideas that has been circling on Twitter is Seattle potentially offer sheeting Elias Pettersson.
I've heard Montreal might do that too.
Potentially, I've heard that as well. Do you think Seattle does that?
No.
No?
If they did it, it would start the rivalry with Vancouver, though.
Another thing I've heard is Seattle goes hard after Philip Deneau to give 2 giant middle fingers to Montreal.
I think Deneau would be a good pickup for the right price, though. Like you don't want to give Deneau more than, I think, 6.5 million. Anything over 6.5, like
that's
a
lot.
I think he should be in the range of 5 to 5.5.
Yeah.
But with Seattle's cap space and being a new team and trying to bring players in, they might have to overpay because the agents will go, look, you have a lot of cap space. You're looking to build your team. We can go elsewhere. And yeah, I think you don't want to overpay, but that, like you said, that would be a good way to get back at Montreal.
Yeah.
6 to 6.5 on like a 3-year deal.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Philip Deneau personally. Like I know he's terrific defensively, but you don't pay a guy all just to defend, right? Like he has to score goals, and he had like 1 goal throughout the playoffs.
Okay, yes, you're gonna do it off of a 12-game sample size or 20-game sample size.
It's a lot. People are judging Matthews and Marner off of a 7-game.
Which is dumb.
What do you mean? We were in the last podcast.
We can't even win a game.
Multiple years.
But Connor, well, how many goals did he score in the regular season? Deneau
this year in the regular season, he scored. That's not a good number.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, exactly.
No, wait. In 392 career games, he has 199 points. You can't say that's not offensive production.
It's like
It's
what?
not 6.5 or 6 though.
But he's a
6
defensive center. Like
Mm,
that's what you're signing him to do. You're
yeah,
signing him
but
I don't think. Here's the thing. I like Seattle. They're looking for offense though, right? So,
hey, if you don't allow any goals, all you got to do is put one in the net, and
but
he
I
can do
think
Johnny
Deneau's
Gore,
like
Jared
the value
McCann.
that Deneau brings. It increases when the rest of his teammates are scoring, and then he's making all these defensive plays. If he is just defending and you're getting paid that much, people are gonna be, they're still gonna get on you for not contributing offensively.
yeah, I wouldn't take on that contract. I don't care how good he is defensively. Like if it and we see like when he matches up against like a Braden Point and Kucherov, like they're just too good for him. They're too good. So
Okay.
he's not like unstoppable.
He also
Defensively.
shut down Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Mark Stone, Blake Wheeler. Actually, well, Blake Wheeler shut himself down. Or no, that Mark Scheifele shut himself down. Blake Wheeler just was not good. He shut them down. So, like, he's a defensive center. So I think it's worth it. I think it's name value. I think it's a giant middle finger to a guy you really, really hate, apparently, if you're Ron Francis, because he just despises Marc Bergevin currently. And who knows? Maybe a Kotkaniemi offer sheet too. He's an RFA.
Sure. I think their target should be Gabriel Landeskog.
Oh, it will be. It will be. But they have like $40 million to spend. So
yeah,
it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the Flyers, because unlike the Seattle Kraken, they have no money and traded a left-handed defenseman named Shane Gostisbehere to the Arizona Coyotes, along with a 2nd and 7th round pick to free up cap space to then acquire Rasmus Ristolainen. This is going to be a contentious subject because I'm analytics heavy and I don't like Rasmus Ristolainen because he's not good. And both of you two are more eye test on things. So you see 6'4" or 6'5", 230 pounds or whatever, and you expect him to do better, which playing with Travis Sanheim, maybe he will. I just think he's very, very bad. But let's hear your side.
The way I look at it is that there's two ways to look at it here. You got like before and after. So looking at the Flyers like a week ago before these 3 trades, are they a better team or worse, right? And I think as of now, July 23rd, 2021, they're a better team because of the moves they've made. Now, it is an overpay, especially for Ristolainen, by giving away. I'm not a fan of Haig, but giving away those picks, definitely an overpay. But at the same time, like it's also going to improve the rest of your team. Provorov is going to have veteran experience with him again. Carter Hart is going to have less pucks being shot at him, maybe build his confidence up again. So I definitely think the Flyers over the last 10 days have improved.
Yeah. I mean, I basically agree with everything you said, but I think that they got the wrong player. Like, it was an overpay. You could have gotten a much better defenseman for that return. Like, for the first alone, I think you could have gotten a better defenseman. Like Ristolainen, he is that like top 4, but like also maybe like a 5th, like a 4 or 5 guy right now. I would say he can turn into maybe a 3 if he plays well with Sanheim, and he's a right-handed defenseman, so that's always good. Big body, like Connor said, which is what teams are looking for. That's what wins you in the playoffs. He's a good skater too, but he's terrible defensively. And also his offensive numbers haven't been that good the past few seasons as well. He can turn it around. Maybe it's kind of like the Ekman-Larsson thing that we were talking about earlier. Like the team that acquired him is just willing to bet that they're going to turn back into the player that they were earlier on in their career. And it was just the fact that they were on bad teams that what made them weaker players. And that could be the case. I could definitely see Ristolainen turning it around. But just, way too much. They gave up way too much in that trade, I think. And also, like, I said like that top 4 for the Flyers is pretty good, but is it Stanley Cup caliber? And that's what the Flyers are trying to do now. They're trying to win the cup. They're not selling. They want to see how much more they can get out of this core before Giroux gets too old, right? And Voracek and Van Riemsdyk get too old. I don't know if that top 4 is sufficient enough, you know? You might need like one more piece on the back end, but still, like, it's the forwards for me. I don't think the forwards can push them there anymore.
They do have some good prospects, though. They have Morgan Frost.
Morgan Frost, yeah.
Shout out Andy Frost, his son. But you got Morgan Frost, who's extremely talented offensively. He's, similar size to a guy like Cole Caulfield, like a shorter, offensively skilled player. But it's kind of like with Pittsburgh. This is off topic, but Pittsburgh, all these years, they had like Brooks, Orpik, Niskanen. They completely revamped their defense, and then they won back-to-back cups. Because what's really important is that, like, the breakout into the offensive zone, right? If you're just chipping it in and you're not getting that momentum carried in the offensive zone driven by well-received passes, and just overall you're playing more defensive hockey because you're hemmed in your own zone, then you're not going to be as successful.
100%, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, it is a big improvement for sure. And Ellis is more offensive, Ristolainen is more offensive, so that will help there. What's their bottom pair looking like?
Who cares? No. I assume it'll be.
I'm just curious, but
I assume it'll be the York guy.
Cam York, yeah.
Cam
Who
York,
they took over Cole Caulfield.
Hmm?
They took Cam York over Cole Caulfield. They had the pick before.
That we'll see whether or not they regret it. Hopefully they don't, but we'll see. York is, what's his name? York's son, isn't he? The guy who used to do ice surfing?
I don't know.
You know who I'm talking about? Former NFL player. Yeah.
Let's see.
Whatever. I'll give a bit of a fancy stats thing. Ryan Ellis, great acquisition. Everybody loves Ryan Ellis. I don't think anybody doesn't. Ristolainen, according to the public models, is a replacement level defender or replacement level player, which means you could plug in anybody and he'd be better. Like anybody that's a borderline NHLer. Will you do better in smaller minutes? Maybe. It's possible.
It's not going to be that smaller though. Like second pair minutes is still like 18 minutes a night.
But wasn't he playing with the Sabres sometimes like 25 minutes a night?
Probably, yeah. Him and Darlene.
Yeah, so
he'd gone down in recent years, I think, like 22, 23. And I think it was Don Lucian said this. His results were even worse playing less hockey.
Yeah, he didn't play much, like 18 minutes, 21 minutes, 20, 17, 20, 23, 18, 20, 17. So around 17 to 20.
I don't know. I think it's up in the air whether or not this will work out. I side with the no. Other people side with the maybe. I put in the Evolving Wild chart because I thought it was funny. And I'll read it out. I won't put it on screen. But they were very against this, and they're very involved in the analytics community. They're one of the better analytics-wise. His RAPM, which is a hockey stat, all of his are down in the red. Shane Gostisbehere is hovering in between for all of them. So take for that what you will. But yeah, let's dive into the Leafs because we've talked Flyers quite a bit. We should get into the Leafs. We should get into specifically expansion draft, what their plan is for tonight with only 3 draft picks. Hyman, who's going to be on the move, which we've touched on a little bit earlier. But we'll start with Jared McCann. I'll explain the rationale before you both yell, because I assume everybody hates it. I think everybody does hate it. But the rationale behind the decision to leave McCann exposed was you give up McCann, which you used Hollander in a 7th, to keep your roster together so you don't actually lose a player, is the logic. Whether or not it's the right logic, who knows? They definitely would have taken Justin Hall if he was exposed. And whether or not you could find a replacement level defenseman for $2 million on the right side, probably not. And that's what Dubas said in his press conference yesterday. But that was sort of the rationale. Let's hear what you guys have to say on this. Did you hate the Jared McCann thing? Did you love it? Was it the right move, wrong move? Where do you sort of stand on Jared McCann?
Like you said, I think it was good to protect Justin Hall because he's a great defenseman. It sucks that we make this trade and then he's not even here for a week and he gets picked up by Seattle. But yeah, like, you know, it was the classic thing on during the expansion draft. They weren't willing to take on contracts like Kerfoot and Voracek and just these overpaid players.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really like Jared McCann. I think he's a good player. I think he's literally exactly what the Leafs needed as well. Like a guy that can play up and down the lineup, who's going to score, who's going to finish scoring chances. Speedy guy, physical as well from the area. I think it's too good to be true. But then what Dubas said yesterday about losing Hall, it makes sense as well because it's tough to replace that guy, especially with him only making $2 million a year. It's a really good contract to be on, with term as well. It comes down to, would you rather have Jared McCann or Justin Hall? And you could have protected 7 forwards if you wanted to, but who's the 7th forward that you protect as well? Is it worth protecting a guy who's, you know, for sure, like, will not get taken? But I don't know. I wish there was a way that both McCann and Hall could be Leafs. I wish, you know, Travis Dermott could just get selected by Seattle, but that's not the reality we live in. Yeah, it sucks. You know, like, I thought the lowest point would be that first round loss to Montreal, but so far the offseason has gotten even worse. You know, hopes up for McCann. Love the trade, but and honestly, I would take McCann over Kerfoot too. Like I'm not the biggest Alexander Kerfoot fan too, so it kind of sucks. But I don't know. I guess it's good that we technically didn't lose a player. We only lost we lost Hollander too. Like, imagine if that comes back to bite us. Like, he turns into someone.
It won't. He's a second, like, he's a bottom 6 center is what he's projected to turn out to. I do want to say Lucas Wacker just put out a 4-tweet thread which used every single character, and I'm sorry, Lucas. I know it sucks being a fan of a team with incompetent management, but I understand the McCann thing. What I really want to get your thoughts on is the Hyman thing, because that's sort of been the big topic in Leafland along with McCann. Hyman won't be re-signing with the Leafs, as I mentioned earlier. He'll be signing with the Oilers, and they're now working out a sign and trade. What would you want in return in said sign and trade? As we have breaking news from the Montreal Canadiens that Carey Price underwent knee surgery on Friday and is expected to be ready for the start of the 2021-22 season.
Great troll job from Bergevin, by the way. Great job.
Borderline illegal, but yes, actually blatantly illegal. But what would you want back in a Hyman sign and trade?
Oh boy, Connor McDavid, please! I would love Connor McDavid.
What would you realistically like?
You get like a 3rd round pick for Hyman, I think.
I'd say yes.
Because you're just a sign and trade, right? Like, you're basically giving away the rights. You're selling the rights. You're not selling any sort of player. Like,
you are though, because this is an 8-year contract.
Yeah, that's the only thing though. Like if it's not an 8-year contract, then like you're getting nothing back. Like you'll get like a fifth, maybe, if you're lucky.
And the Oilers spending an extra $500,000 on their cap.
True. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I should compare it to the Anderson thing, but I'm kind of comparing it to when the Leafs got Anderson from Anaheim and they got 2 picks. Yeah. I think Anaheim got 2 picks. One of them was like a late first, and then or was it 2 seconds? I forget.
It was a first and a second.
First and a second, and it was an RFA.
That was the pick that was used on Sam Steele.
Damn. Right.
So even great Leafs trades end up just tearing your heart out.
Yeah. I mean,
first and a second, and he was an RFA. He wasn't a UFA.
True. I mean, no matter what we get back, I know Leafs Nation is going to be like up in arms tonight. But I mean, it depends on how the contract looks too, like how much money they're actually going to give Zach Hyman.
Isn't it's public.
Is that
like 5.5 for 7?
That's facts. Okay.
5.125 ish for.
Yeah. Well, if you compare to the 2019 NHL draft, the Jets they traded their rights to the Flyers for a 5th round pick, and then Kevin Hayes signed a 7-year deal. I know it's not 8, but Kevin Hayes and Zach Hyman, value wise, they're relatively similar, I think.
I don't know. I disagree with that.
I think Hyman has more value because I think he's more of a hot commodity. You have to keep in mind it's Winnipeg trading Kevin Hayes or whoever it was, not the Toronto Maple Leafs, which are the center of the hockey media universe. And therefore, everybody they have is overvalued, especially when it comes to guys like Hyman. And I think the 8-year thing's pretty big. One name that sort of caught my eye, although that's sort of now dead in the water because not Tom Holland, that's Spider-Man. Also not Peter Holland, that's the former Leaf. Ken Holland said yesterday they're not going to extend a qualifying offer to Jujhar Khaira. That was a guy who caught a little bit of my interest. He can kill penalties, bottom 6 kind of guy. He might be somebody they're willing to give up. Other names I've heard are Benson, who was exposed to everyone thought Seattle was going to take, except they ended up signing Larson. Those are the 2 names I heard.
I mean, from Elliott's tweet, isn't it just picks?
Well, they could find a middle ground because the issue with the picks is Edmonton don't have a second or third rounder available to them next season because it's tied up in the Duncan Keith trade.
So they have a 4th in this draft?
I don't think so. Let me pull up Cap Friendly.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's got to be like a 4th or a 5th. I don't know how much the 8th year is really gonna have an impact. I think we're kind of expecting too much. I don't think it's gonna be much we get back.
I think you might be surprised.
I hope I am. I hope it's a 2nd, but
so they don't have a 2nd this year. They don't have a 3rd this year. They do have a 4th, a 5th, 2 6ths, and a 7th. Next season, they can't use their 2nd, 3rd. They don't have a 4th. They have a 5th, 6th, 7th. I think they get a prospect back, and I think it's potentially Tyler Benson. Although one idea I did hear, and you can let me know your thoughts on this, was packaging Dermott with Hyman's rights to try to get Ethan Bear, who potentially could be on the move.
Yes, please.
That'd be a great trade.
That'd be a very good trade. And of all people who would do that, it's Tom Holland.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Ken Holland. I don't know why I keep saying Tom. Ken Holland. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Leafs. We'll have to keep an eye on all that stuff. We won't get into the Oilers. That's too long a discussion. Because
unlike Ken Holland, right? Tom Holland would have the spidey sense to know that it's a bad trade.
Yes, and a bad trade to acquire Duncan mother effing Keith to lock up both your 2nd and 3rd round picks. as well as getting rid of Seth Jones's brother to make it easier for them to then acquire Seth Jones, although potentially that's a good thing because Seth Jones is bad. But final thoughts on hockey. I want your predictions. I'm going to name 3 players. Do they get moved tonight? Jack Eichel.
That's tough.
The thing is, because I want to see it, right? I want to see that happen.
If it doesn't happen tonight, it doesn't happen for a while, though, I think. Because, like, all these picks, these first-round picks, right?
I think it happens in the next week.
I don't think it happens.
Do you think? Tonight. Yeah, but does the likelihood of him getting traded go? It goes down if he doesn't get traded tonight.
For sure, a little bit, because then all the picks that would have been included in the trade become next year's picks.
And I heard next year's draft is a lot better than this year's, so those picks will be more valuable.
So then there's a higher chance that maybe it does get pushed back.
Yeah, maybe if Buffalo is saying, like, we have enough picks for this draft, maybe let's try to use Eichel as an asset to acquire, a lot of first, second round picks in the draft that a lot of analysts and scouts are claiming to be like this, like a 2015 type of draft, then that would definitely be the better choice.
Yeah.
So we're saying no, but maybe. Got it.
I don't see it. I think it's a no.
I think no tonight, but like you said, maybe in a week, if like with the 2022 picks coming into account.
All right. Seth Jones.
Yes, I think it will happen tonight. Yeah, okay. I think it's Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna final answer.
All right. We're gonna look really terrible when the complete opposite happens. But Sam Reinhart.
Nah. I'll say no.
Well, since they've already discussed it tonight and they're linked, maybe the Flyers and the Sabres pull off another trade. Because I heard that Travis Konechny and maybe a pick / prospect would be going the other way for Sam Reinhart.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Would be interesting. Although I think you're going to use Travis Konechny to potentially acquire Johnny Gaudreau, but that's another discussion for another time. Then final wrap up before we move on to a little bit of basketball, because I want to talk about the 4th overall pick. And then we'll get into a tennis because we have Jack on. We have to talk tennis. Is the return for Sam Reinhart better or worse than the return for Rasmus Ristolainen?
Better.
Worse. It's hard to top that return, I think. I'll go worse.
I think it's better. Sam Reinhart's he's an incredibly talented player. And I think just the way that picks are being thrown around, prospects, veteran players, I think Buffalo should, if they don't get more than what they got for Ristolainen, I think it's definitely a failure on their GM's part.
I think just the way that Buffalo has been making trades, I think it will be worse. Look at the Taylor Hall trade. They didn't really get much in return.
All right. Basketball. Raptors, 4th overall pick. What do you think they do? Do they keep it? Do they move up? Or do they move down? Or do they just use it for another asset completely?
Well, they're going to get a center. Just depends on which one they want, I guess. I don't know. I think there is a good chance that they could move up. But is that going to happen before the draft, or is it going to happen during the draft? Is it going to be an on the clock type of decision, or are they just going to overpay to confirm that they have the 3rd overall pick? I'm not sure yet. I think it will be an on the draft board kind of decision to pull the trigger or not. But if they're, I feel like there could be. I think no matter what, like the Raptors are going to get a player that they want at 4. You know, like I think like they will get a player that they're comfortable with. I don't see there's a way for them to just completely trade that pick and acquire a player, because I think they are starting to go into the direction of like not necessarily like a rebuild, but like bringing in like younger players and like starting your starting lineup around a center, like a franchise center, will be good for them.
Yeah, we should definitely be thankful that we don't pick 7, because now we have options, right? We can trade this 4th pick and a player to move down, like, or I guess up to like the 3rd spot, or we can use it to acquire. I'm not a fan of this, but acquire Damian Lillard.
Ooh,
I don't think that will happen, but who knows? And you say we won't pick 7th. We may pick 7th.
if we
Hey, it's a
go
lucky
down.
number, so lucky number 7.
Pascal Siakam for James Wiseman, number 7, and the 14th overall pick is the rumored package that the Golden State Warriors are offering around to get a star.
Hmm.
Who knows? We'll see. But that'll be next week. Whether or not they get one of the Jalens, whether or not they get Evan Mobley, whether or not they move back, whether or not they pick Scotty Barnes, or
Whether or not they get Cade Cunningham.
they are not going to be getting Cade Cunningham. That would take too much to move up. But they might move up to number 3. We'll see, which would give them likely Evan Mobley, because it sounds like Houston's going to be taking Jalen Green. But we shall see. That's next week's excitement. But let's wrap up with some tennis talk. Not tennis. We don't have a ton to talk about because we sort of didn't really pick this at a great time.
When was the last time we talked about tennis on this podcast?
Very long time ago.
Yeah.
By the way, the Vancouver trade's now official.
Nice.
Olympics. What's your prediction for the gold? Men and women.
Definitely Novak Djokovic. He's playing unreal tennis this year, and the competition isn't the best. It's on hard court, so you have like the contenders right now would be Andrei Rublev, Daniil Medvedev, and Stefano Tsitsipas as the top 3. I think, like on the women's side, Osaka is definitely a favorite, especially considering it's in Tokyo and she's from Osaka. So, she was the torchbearer, right? Earlier today. So
she lit the torch or the flame.
Yeah. So lit the flame. It's in home country. She's insanely good on hard court. All 4 of her Grand Slam titles have come on hard court, both at the U.S. Open, 2 at the U.S. Open, and 2 at the Australian Open. So I think the betting favorites are definitely Novak Djokovic and Naomi Osaka. And the thing with Djokovic is that he's 60% of the way to achieving the Golden Slam, which is winning all 4 Grand Slam majors in a season, and then also winning gold medal at the Olympics, which the only other person who's been able to achieve that is Steffi Graf in, I think, the 1988 Olympics. So it would be absolutely unreal if Djokovic was able to accomplish that. But as a Nadal fan, and Federer, Nadal, Djokovic all tied at 20 Grand Slams, I definitely want to see Nadal lifting the trophy in Flushing later this summer.
Taylor Hall's signing is now official. Do you think any Canadians can make some noise?
Here's the thing, like Bianca Andreescu, not at the Olympics. Denis Shapovalov, like you have like your 2 biggest players just missing the Olympics, so it'll be incredibly hard to, get on the podium. But I think like hard court in general is just anyone's game, really. Like it's not a specialty surface like grass or clay. So there's definitely a chance to maybe get like a bronze medal, but I don't think anything in the. I don't think we'll see a Canadian in the final of either.
So would Felix Auger-Aliassime be Canada's best bet, or is there someone else
Oh,
to watch out for?
100%. Yeah, the way he played at Wimbledon, making his first quarterfinal, and he also beat Alexander Zverev, who's another contender actually for Germany. So definitely the favorite for like Canada's hopes at making the podium, but the competition is pretty tough, despite Nadal and Federer not being at the Olympics.
What about the women's side? Is there anyone in Canada to watch out for, or is that not as good as the men's?
Well, you have Bianca gone. I think Eugenie Bouchard is nursing a shoulder injury, so she isn't present. There's a youngster, like a very impressive young player named, I think, Leila Fernandez, but I don't think she doesn't have the experience yet. I think we have to wait maybe a couple of years, but I think like in heading into the future of the WTA tour and then the next Olympics in Paris, I think she's definitely a name to look out for.
All right, and let's shift to the next big tournament, which is in Canada. The formerly Rogers Cup, now I have no idea what its name is.
I think it's the National Bank Open.
The National Bank Open. All right, so the National Bank Open, who's playing? Who can we look forward to? Men's and women's. Where is the men's and women's this year? Do we have the men's in Toronto, or is it the women's this year?
The men's is being held in Toronto.
All right, so who's coming then?
So Nadal confirmed last week that he'll be at the tournament, but he is playing at this other tournament, which he's never played at, called the City Open, which is a tournament held in Washington. And it's funny because they were going to have 50% capacity, but as soon as he said he wanted to use this tournament as like a tune-up for the US Open, they went to 100 because they know that he sells tickets, right? So like Djokovic is set to be at the Rogers Cup, but we'll see because he's playing a lot of tennis before the final Grand Slam, like Olympics. I think he's confirmed for the Rogers Cup and Cincinnati. So like those three tournaments, and then it's almost August, right? And it starts at the US Open starts late August, so you need some time to recover.
So how many titles does he have so far this year? 3?
Yeah, he's won Australian Open, the French Open, beating Nadal along the way, and then Wimbledon.
Right.
How he's going to have to quarantine though when he comes to Canada.
That's the thing. A lot of players are deciding to not come to Toronto because they don't want to bubble.
But if they're vaxxed, they can get in. He's obviously anti-vax.
Yeah, sadly, given the fact that he's one of the greatest players of all time.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that the best tennis player of all time is an anti-vaxxer. Does that mean he probably won't end up playing in the National Bank Open because he will have to quarantine? Will he have enough time to do that?
That's a good point. Like he's set to play there, but I think there's definitely a chance that he pulls out last minute, given the fact that he's playing a ton of tennis before the US Open, and if, like you pointed out, the mandatory bubble that he'll have to be in.
All right, and what about on the women's side?
I think Simona Halep is set to return from an Achilles injury, and she's always the last 5 seasons she's been top 5. Since it's hard court, Naomi Osaka again, and then I think maybe a dark horse would be, if she's healthy, of course, Bianca Andreescu, right? We're only 2 years removed from when she beat Serena Williams at the US Open. So I think those 3 are definitely good picks to win the National Bank Open and the US Open.
All right. I don't have any more tennis questions because I couldn't come up with them even if I could. And we, is there anything tennis related that we should know that I didn't bring up?
Well, in regards to Novak Djokovic and being an anti-vaxxer, he held last year in the middle of the pandemic in Belgrade, the Adria Tour, and it led to him getting COVID. I think Grigor Dimitrov getting COVID and a few other players who participated in it. And he got a lot of bad publicity for that. So
yeah, I remember that one. It's the best men's tennis player of all time have to be an anti-vaxxer. It's so unfortunate, but I don't think we have much else to get to as long as nothing breaks in the next 30 seconds or the next 5 minutes so we can do our hot takes. We should be able to get out of here so you can finish your assignment. Let's do it. Let's do hot takes. If you're not familiar with hot takes, at the end of each show, we do a segment called Hot Takes where we give a hot take. Crazy opinion on sports or belief or whatever. In the last year, I predicted that the MLB would be the first sport back. That didn't happen. Aiden, you predicted that what's his name was going to get fired. Babcock was going to get fired within 2 weeks, and he did. I predicted with Kyle last time that Morgan Riley would be traded for Gabe Velarde. That's not going to happen. So
did you say that really? Gabe Velarde?
Yeah, I did. Do either of you? Hey, you have one prepared, don't you?
I said one earlier. Vegas and Seattle. My team, Seattle Kraken, in the first round of playoffs next year. And the hot take, a little bit of a twist. Seattle wins the series. Seattle dethrones Vegas. The Kraken win a playoff series against Vegas. 7. I'll say actually no. In 6 games, and it's a reverse sweep. So Vegas goes up 2-0, and Seattle wins the next 4.
You got to add some.
It's got to add some spice to
it. I have an extremely hot take.
Oh boy!
If he's healthy and plays 82 games, Nikita Kucherov will have more points than Connor McDavid next year.
Okay, good. He's on my fantasy team.
He had 128 points one year. Like, you can't say that he doesn't have the potential.
Yeah, I don't think that's like that hot. Numbers. I can see that happening.
It's pretty hot considering McDavid's going to have Zach Hyman on one wing and Leon Draisaitl on the other. But we'll see. Good hot take. Good hot take.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I will say Olympics related. Novak Djokovic doesn't make it past the quarterfinals.
Historically, it's a good prediction because he's never won anything higher than bronze medal. He got bronze, I think, at the 2008 Olympics, but in 2012 and 2016, Juan Martín del Potro, who's sadly not at the Olympics this year, stopped him both times. And it's kind of funny. Juan Martín, he was sending out well wishes, good luck and stuff. And he's like, "You're lucky that I'm not there to stop you."
Love that. That's great. That's unreal. So we'll see whether or not any of those come true. They probably won't, but it's fun. Jack, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. We'll link everything we talked about down below in the description.
Yep, all of his work, Instagram, graphic stuff, everything will be down there.
As it breaks that Mrazek is likely going to hit the open market. Just thanks so much for joining us, man. Even with an assignment due tonight, we'll let you go and do that. But yeah, all your Instagram stuff will be linked down below, all your other work. And it has been a ton of fun, even if this has been the most disorganized show we've done to date.
Yes, for sure. I would say one of the most fun shows.
Yeah.
Though.
I had a great time talking, trades, the expansion draft, Ryerson related content and of course like hot takes. We'll see if they come to fruition, but
We'll see. We'll see. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time, whenever next time is. Like, subscribe, follow Aiden on Instagram at
Aiden Silliphant.
and
at Aiden Silliphant. And you can follow at Unlimited Pod on Instagram as well.
there you go. You can follow me on Twitter at CWG Somerville. Don't follow me on Instagram. I never post.
You posted recently though. You posted like
I'm in over a year, yes. Or 2 years actually. But check out my stuff with the MLS Multiplex podcast and all of that fun stuff. But enjoy the trades, enjoy the free agent frenzy. We'll see whether or not we're back before the Raptors make their pick, but hopefully they do something insane. So yeah, enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time. Peace.